All right, well, today you're here to find out about how to get money, right? You've already made one huge step. You're here as part of a summer program, so you found some money. And I think one of the things that our guest is going to talk about and I'll talk about is that money begets money. So you are on the path to more opportunities because you are here today as part of this opportunity. So congratulations on that. And being able to turn this opportunity into more opportunities is a huge part of your academic path, and we're going to talk a lot about that today. But again, we are so fortunate to have the director of the fellowships program here at UAB. I've been working with Dr. Cook for several years now, and we hand students back and forth. We see as our two offices being, a nice bridge between the two, with the undergraduate research being a great way to find fellowships and scholarship opportunities while you're an undergrad and also after you graduate with post-bac opportunities. So she's going to talk all about that, but she's done an incredible job for all of the UAB students. And we're very fortunate to have her here to talk to all of you who are just UAB students here for the summer, but we consider you Blazers for now, maybe Blazers forever, you never know. But I'm going to go ahead and hand over the time now to Michelle, and she's going to tell you about some of these great ways and great opportunities to kind of build on what you're doing now. Thanks again.
So, hey, that was a very good introduction. Like you said, I'm Dr. Michelle Cook. I run the fellowships office here at UAB. And what I want to do is just go through some awards that might be interesting to you in terms of where you are in your academic career. The fellowships office works with nationally competitive awards. And these are typically awards that are going to send you to a specific place to do a specific thing. And if you're thinking like, well, that's all great for UAB, I don't go to UAB, so this woman is meaningless to me. Not so. There is probably a fellowships advisor or someone in a similar position at your home institution. And if you are not a UAB student and some of these awards are interesting to you, I mean, you can still apply for these. These are open to everyone. But if you send me an email, I can help you find who the fellowships person is at your home institution, if that would be helpful for you. I'm going to drop my email in the chat. And I'm going to type it correctly. It's fellowships@uab.edu, and I did type it correctly. Hooray for me. So I'm going to just talk through a few awards. This is not an exhaustive list by any stretch of the imagination of awards that you can apply for. But a lot of these are going to be focused primarily on research because what's up? You're doing research this summer. So I'm going to I didn't make slides. I'm just going to share my browser window with you. I can put these links in the chat when I finish talking, if that would be helpful for you. But I'm just going to talk about a few awards that might be interesting to you. The first is the Dodd program. It's the German Academic Exchange Service. And when you translate that into German, the letters spell Dodd. So this is the first one we're going to look at. So this is research internships in science and engineering. So it is discipline specific. So if you're a humanities social science person, feel free to tune out for right now, but we're going to come back to things that are going to be interesting to you. But you can read what's on this page. Dodd, the RISE program is going to match you with a host institution in Germany. You don't need to worry about, oh, I can't speak German. That's okay. The language in the lab is going to be English. But hey, if you're in Germany for a summer, you're going to pick up some walking around German and get some great experience while you're doing that too. This program is very much like what you're doing right now for the summer. It's a summer research internship program. You're working in a lab, you're working on a project, you're building your professional network, you're making connections with mentors and postdocs and also other students who are going to be your peers when you're in the field later on in your career. The deadlines for these, and this is fun, none of the deadlines for these things I'm going to talk about have passed yet, which is always nice. But you can see what this application schedule is going to look like. It's going to open up November the 1st. It's going to be due December the 15th. And you can see when you would be notified for getting a cool research opportunity potentially next summer. These ones that are going to send you abroad are still a little bit up in the air right now. They didn't run for 2020, for instance, obviously. but the application is open and that is very promising. So the RISE program is going to be open to you if you are still an undergraduate student. I'm not sure off the top of my head if this one could work as like a gap summer, like if you apply for it as at the start of your senior year and you're getting ready to graduate that following spring. I don't know if you could graduate and do Dodd RISE at the same time. Gareth, do you know that off the top of your head?
I am not sure, so I don't want to mislead anyone. I think you can, but I'm not 100% sure. So
Okay.
you want to do some research on that one.
Yeah, we can check that out. I'm not going to click around on the website because I get lost on the Dodd websites. I'm not going to lie, they're not great websites, but the information you need is on here. And again, I'll drop these links into the chat when I'm done talking. So this is Dodd RISE for undergraduate students. The next two I'm going to show you, there's 3 flavors for Dodd. The next 2 I'm going to show you are for people in any discipline. You can apply for a study scholarship or a research scholarship through Dodd, and these are bags of money to send you to Germany. With the study, you can enroll in a graduate degree program, get a master's degree in Germany. You don't need to know German. What's up? Again, that's great. Unless you're doing, German literature, and then you probably do know German if you're studying German literature. Anyway, you get the point. Also interesting with Dodd study is that you can treat it like a study abroad while you are enrolled in a graduate degree program somewhere in the US or elsewhere, but you're enrolled in a graduate degree program. You can take a semester, take some time to study at a German university and then come back to your home institution. And getting to do a study abroad sort of thing like that as a graduate student is much more rare. It's a lot more difficult to swing sometimes as a graduate student than as an undergrad. So Dodd study, again, is a bag of money for you to study abroad in Germany as a graduate student or in your final year of undergrad. So I'm going to click on dates. That's fantastic. There's nothing there, but this program does exist. I promise this is a real website. You can research with Dodd as well. And the research page is where it starts to get confusing because you can see over here, they've got opportunities for PhD students and postdocs, for faculty, for whoever. But these are for a little bit farther along in your career, but it's definitely something to think about as well. Typically, when we have students apply for Fulbright, which I'm going to talk about next, and especially if they're doing research, they're applying for Fulbright to go to Germany to help support them doing a long-term research project over the course of a year. We often have them look at Dodd as well, as if Fulbright doesn't work out, Dodd may work out, and sometimes Dodd is a better bag of money, or vice versa. If Dodd doesn't work out for you, maybe Fulbright will work out for you. But either way, you're going to get to Germany. So 3 avenues to Germany already. Another avenue to Germany, or just about anywhere else you want to go in the world, is the Fulbright program. Fulbright can work like a gap year. So if you're a rising senior, you're eligible for Fulbright right now. The main eligibility requirement for Fulbright is for you to be a US citizen and for you to have undergraduate degree in hand by the time you would go on your Fulbright. So students I'm working with right now are rising seniors. They're going to graduate in spring of 2022, which is wild to think about. If they win, they're going to start their Fulbright year in fall of 2022. Does that timeline make sense? Sometimes it's confusing to think kind of like, but I'm not really a senior yet, but I'm applying for this thing that'll be in the next year. So Fulbright has 3 main things you can do with it. And so it's more like 3 umbrellas under which there's still a lot of possibilities under each, but it's helpful to think about it having 3 main things you can do with it. You can teach with Fulbright. You can teach English. It's called the English Teaching Assistant Program. You don't necessarily need to be a English major or an education person to do the ETA, the English Teaching Assistant. There are plenty of countries that want to see STEM majors, for instance, apply for the ETA. And the ETA isn't necessarily teaching diagramming sentences and grammar and literacy. It's more about getting your students comfortable practicing their conversational English skills, which if you think about it, that's easier really than teaching someone how to read or teaching them grammar or whatever. So you can come to the ETA from any discipline for any reason. UAB, you've been at UAB, is a very STEM heavy, very med focused institution. We have a lot of pre-med students applying for Fulbright and succeeding at Fulbright. You can also research with Fulbright, which is what you're doing right now, except in another country for an entire year. And that you've done, and Gareth was right at the beginning of this talk, that you've already gotten another institution to invest in your potential. Like, oh yes, you sound great, let's bring you to UAB to participate in this program to get you more research experience, and then send you back out to your home institution or back out into the world to continue this. That's an investment that's going to prove to other potential investors in you that you're worth the investment. Does that, I didn't make that analogy make a lot of sense, but you're nodding, so it made sense to the spaces I can see. So you could research with Fulbright. And this is fun because you're researching in another country. And again, like with Dodd, you don't necessarily need to know your host country's language to be able to pitch a research project there. This is especially true in STEM disciplines where the language spoken in the lab is often English. You would need language skills enough to do the work you say you want to do in your application. But then there are plenty of other countries who want you to be able to speak Italian or Spanish or whatever, again, depending on what your project is going to be. So you can teach with Fulbright, you can research with Fulbright. Like Dodd, you can also study with Fulbright. And it's exactly what it sounds like. You can start, you can do a one-year master's degree under the Fulbright umbrella, one and done, and then you go on to your next thing. You can start a longer degree program with Fulbright, and we've had students do that as well. You can also, and this is a little more rare, but I think it's exciting, you can also do the equivalent of like a study abroad with Fulbright. You can find an institution that has a really exciting course of study that you're not necessarily going to take a degree. Maybe it's a certificate, or maybe it's just this university approaches public health from a social justice standpoint, and that's really cool for you, and it's going to be hard for you to find this coursework at a US institution, for instance. And so you put together this bespoke program of study, and you spend a nice year abroad doing this program that you've put together. It's not necessarily for a degree, but it's for additional training. So those are the three main flavors of Fulbright, three main things you can do with Fulbright. For Fulbright, you do need to be a US citizen. If you want it to be a true gap year, apply during your senior year. So if you're approaching your senior year right now, and this sounds at all interesting to you, and you're a UAB student, get at me really fast. If you're not a UAB student, you can still get at me and we can talk about this a little bit, but I almost guarantee you that your home institution has a Fulbright program advisor. You can actually search for them on the Fulbright webpage. I feel like there was one more thing I wanted to mention about Fulbright, but it's gone.
Can I mention something while you're thinking of it?
Please.
So our two keynote speakers for our summer expo are Kenneth Davis and Carrie Tang, who both, they went to Germany first with me to present at the World Conference of Undergraduate Research. And then they both applied to Germany for Fulbright research. And they both were accepted. Sadly, it was last year. And so they have, but the Fulbright did defer a year, but they've moved on to their professional careers after that. But just to show you, and they started out with summer programs. So their path, you could go on the same path. Fulbright is amazing for research.
Yeah, I'm so proud of them.
They're amazing.
They're very amazing. And they are both in different medical schools right now, and they're doing just fine. They're living their best lives, being very smart people together. They're great. They're actually, Kenneth is going to be speaking. I'm doing Fulbright info sessions on July the 20th. Check out my Instagram page for information on that. It's at UAB Fellowships. But Kenneth is going to be talking for the study research one, just about his mentor search experience. So we've done Dodd, flavors of Dodd, we've done flavors of Fulbright. I'm going to talk really quickly just about the Goldwater Scholarship, because if you are a rising junior in a STEM discipline and you are looking at a research career, particularly if you want to pursue a PhD, A little bit less if you want to pursue an MD, PhD, but if you're a STEM major with a good record of research, you're doing summer research right now, which is phenomenal, and you want a research career, you want to pursue a PhD, look into applying for the Goldwater Scholarship through your home institution. The deadline for Goldwater is in the spring, but we are limited in how many, all the universities are limited in how many candidates we can put forward. So it is very often that you will see your home institution have a deadline for Goldwater late in the fall. Ours, for instance, is November the 15th. But Goldwater is a very prestigious, very, very shiny bag of money to put toward your undergraduate degree in progress. Sometimes you end up not needing the money if you've already gotten like Fulbright scholarships from your home institution. Good for you, that's phenomenal. But you want to be able to say Goldwater Scholar on your CV. You want this because it's the kind of STEM, it's the kind of award that comes with clout. It comes with a scholar network, which all of these awards do now. The Goldwater Scholar Network is a little bit newer. But this is the kind of award that opens doors for you, especially if you do want that research career. It's going to help you get into additional labs. It's going to help you get funding for graduate school. This is one that, like, winning the most prestigious undergraduate scholarship in National Science, Mathematics, and Engineering in America. You saw that with his old man face up there. But you want Barry Goldwater's money. You want Barry Goldwater's name on your CV, because this one's going to be a tremendous help for you. It's going to open doors. It's going to open doors that you might not have realized were there. So apply for this one through your home institution. Like I said, the national deadline is in the spring, it's in January, but everybody is going to have an earlier deadline. So look for this on your campus, probably mid-fall semester. And again, I'll put links for these in the chat. Another bag of money, this is just like completely the other direction. The Gilman Scholarship is a bag of money to pay for a study abroad program. You need to be a US citizen for Gilman. And you need to have demonstrable financial need. And Gilman looks at this by whether you're eligible for or receiving the Pell Grant. But I'm putting this in this presentation today because it's a bag of money for you to put toward a credit-bearing study abroad or internship program in any field. And we've had plenty of UAB students use Gilman on a study abroad program that has a research component to it. And we've had students she doesn't necessarily do Gilman, but this is just a good way to think about study abroad, especially if you're younger in your undergraduate career. We had a student study abroad in Oslo, Norway, did a research component while she was on her study abroad, applied for Goldwater actually while she was on her study abroad, won, came back, had this great time in Norway, applied for Fulbright, to go back to Norway for a year to continue research in the same lab that she had gotten this very good connection with, like very good chemistry in this lab, great connection with the PI, used his lab to help apply for her Fulbright grant, spent a year in Norway living her best life, working full-time in this lab, working on her research project, and now she's doing her PhD at Brown. So these things can line up. So it's so good that you're doing a summer program now, because you can play that card to help get you more money. These things beget more money. So Gilman Scholarship has 2 deadlines every year, one in October and one in March, but you can apply. If you wanted to apply for a summer program, for instance, you can apply for Gilman funding in October. If you don't win, apply again for summer funding in March. You get 2 bites at the apple for every semester you might wanting to do study abroad. I should have put these in some sort of order. The Ford Foundation Fellowship programs are bags of money to pay for graduate school. And you can sort of see what the parameters are going to be here. This one's got a wider range of what we're describing as US citizens, where you might be able to be from. They want to see superior academic achievement, blah, blah, blah. But then this is also key. They want to see you committing to a career in teaching or research at the college or university level. There are several bags of money that you can move through as you're progressing through your graduate career. You can apply for a pre-doctoral fellowship, which is pre-doctoral, the very beginning of your doctoral program. You can apply for a dissertation program fellowship that's going to give you money to help put toward tuition while you're working on your dissertation, and then in postdoc, which is, you know what postdocs are. But Ford Foundation, especially if you are underrepresented in your field, this is going to be a good one for you to look at. Another bag of money is there's a lot going on this webpage right now. Wow. They've added boxes and this ticker thing that's very distracting. Anyway, the NSFGRFP is the National Science Foundation's Graduate Research Fellowship Program. This is a bag of money, big bag of money, y'all. You get $34,000 5 times. No, 3 years of financial support. There you go. Anyway, you get the point. This is a lot of money for you to pay for graduate school. This is the kind of money that if you're wanting to join a lab while you're a graduate student and the PI says, I don't have the funding to bring on another graduate student, you're like, no problem. I brought my own. Let me in. And they're like, well, maybe we can talk. I don't know. It would depend on the PI. But this is a bag of money to put toward a research-focused program in an NSF-supported STEM discipline. And this can go toward a master's degree, or this can go toward a doctoral degree at a US institution. You can apply as a senior, getting ready to graduate, or you can apply, and not typically, but oftentimes you might be a more competitive applicant if you're applying as a first-year graduate student, because you have a sort of a better idea of kind of where you are and what you're going to be doing, and especially if it's a PhD program, what your dissertation work might be. This award is always due in October, and they stagger the deadlines based on discipline, but they're always like mid-October within the same sort of week. So NSFGRFP, bag of money to pay for graduate school. And this is the list of things that I wanted to make sure I hit for you. This is not, like I said at the beginning, this is not an exhaustive list of awards that you can apply for. This is not an exhaustive list of things that could help you pay for research or pay for graduate school. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There's lots of nationally competitive awards for lots of different fields for you to do lots of different things. But that you are doing a summer research program that was competitive. Not everybody who applied to these things got in. People have invested in your potential as a researcher, as a scientist, as an academic and a scholar, and that you have won this for this summer is going to help you win other things in the future. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to start putting these links in the chat. I don't know, Gareth, what your setup is, if you want questions now or you want me to hang out until the end for questions.
Well, why don't you start typing the links, and I just want to thank you again and give people, a chance maybe to think of a question to ask. And I was going to ask one, with NSF, if they're in an NSF program, does that mean any more than another type of summer program with the NSF graduate money? I didn't think so.
I didn't think so. No, what really matters is the research experience you're getting and how you're able to tell that story, how you're able to talk about what you learned this summer in your program, that you get a presentation out of it at the end. It's more like those outcomes sort of are what matter than doing an NSF one as opposed to like an NIH or whatever.
Gotcha. But it is known. That's one nice thing, NSF knows NSF, and it's a small world out there. You might be surprised sometimes which PIs know other PIs. And if you get a great letter from a program this year, that could help you for one of those programs. So make the most of this summer to help you for these future opportunities. Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Cook? I have additional things I'm going to present, but I wanted her to go first because she has the big bags of money, which is, I love to think about that. And I will tell you, Germany has a lot of money.
Germany wants US students coming over, for sure.
They were so excited when we were over there for the international or the World Conference of Undergraduate Research, and talking to a lot of people over there. it's a great place to get funded. So, all right. Let me open up the chat and just see if there are any questions in the chat. All right. So Dr. Cook has put all of those links in there, which are fantastic links. So take a moment and I would copy and paste those now, although we will, we'll post the recording of today's presentation, but those are all great opportunities. And also the website for the UAB fellowships. All right, any questions? I don't see any hands up right now. All right, well, thank you, Dr. Cook. Really, really appreciate you coming by and sharing all that great information. You're welcome to stick around, but if you need to take off, feel free to. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now. And I have a couple of PowerPoints that I'm going to share. One is from the spring presentation on this. And there's just a couple things I'm going to highlight on that. And I'll send these PowerPoints to all the summer program leaders so that they could share these with you. But then I have a second PowerPoint that I've worked a little bit on, added a few other details and with some links. And but since there's good information on both, I just kind of wanted to go over both. So without further ado, then I'm going to go over those real quick. All right. All right. So you've heard, when you hear funding, you're thinking about money, of course, right? But the experiences that you're getting is another way to look at funding. So just real quick, here's a quick history of scientific funding. So much of it comes from the government now, but you can kind of see that a lot of private patronage, and we see a little bit of overlap with some of these things that Dr. Cook went over, and the church as well. And I'm leaving that up there because, again, when you think about funding, you can think about lots of different sources. It doesn't just have to be the government, right? Maybe there are scholarships in the private sector. There still are. I mean, I worked for a parking company when I was an undergraduate, and there was a scholarship through that company that I got. So, it doesn't hurt to think about that. Or church, maybe there's a religious organization that you're part of. There still is funding in those capacities. So I just wanted to kind of emphasize that as well. But you can also see, how funding has evolved over time here. But I'm not going to go over every little detail. They did a nice job. And you can watch the recording of that on our wonderful YouTube channel. So today, as I said, you have private companies, you have foundations, you have professional organizations. And that's another thing I really want to emphasize is that you can be part of undergraduate organizations and associations and societies that will help fund you, okay? They're definitely and I'm going to go over some specific ones in my second slideshow here, but also, again, expanding your perception or your idea of where you can get funding. There's all sorts of different ways. And of course, you're here this summer because you were probably one of these programs, the National Science Foundation, the National Institute of Health, UAB funded a lot of it, and UAB gets its money from the state of Alabama, right? So there's a lot of government funding for what you're doing this summer. But maybe you're part of the honors program and you get some private donations or something like that. Maybe that's helping. So again, lots of different places that you can look for money. And Dr. Cook went over some of those great scholarships and those fellowships that you can look for. There are also all sorts of different ways that the PIs that you're working with, the way they're being funded, the way they're being paid this summer. Those are things to think about. Prizes and awards, I just want to throw that down here as well. Sometimes it may not be literal money that you're getting, but prizes such as first place at the UAB Expo, all right? That's a form of currency in the scientific world, in the research world. So it's important to participate in the Expo. That's one of the reasons. Again, you put that on your CV, you learn how to talk about it and how it helped you develop as a student. It's important to think about all those things. So funding there is bias with funding. It's a two-way street. Is one way to think about it, of who's getting the funding, and whether those funding agencies have some kind of influence. We have Southern Research, which is a great institution right next door to UAB. It's private. Sometimes that can affect its funding. I don't think the Goldwater Foundation has a lot of political influence, but sometimes there could be, that can overflow a little bit. So it's important to think about that and those types of things. And same thing with journals. And we talked a lot about publishing and all of that last week and the previous week, and ways to get published, those sorts of things to keep in mind when you're looking at funding. So where are you going to find it? All right, so we're going to talk about that real quick. And then the second PowerPoint that I'm going to put up is going to have even more. All right. So obviously you found this summer research opportunity. Somehow you found it. Maybe you went to the website for your school, maybe an advisor talked to you, maybe your professor talked to you, maybe a family member talked to you, but somehow you found this funding opportunity, right? And Dr. Cook just shared a whole bunch of other great places to look to find opportunities. International. That's one thing I wish I had heard about when I was an undergrad. I would have loved to have been paid to do research in another country. That's an incredible opportunity that's available for you. The PIs that you're working with, okay, this summer, maybe the PIs back at your home school, they get funding, right? And sometimes they do have funding for research. You have to ask. It doesn't hurt to ask, right? So talk to them about future ones. So again, money begets money, right? So the money that you're getting this summer to participate in this research experience, you can channel that into your next experience. So if you go home to your home institution and you've done a really great job of getting totally involved this summer, and you can talk about how important it was to your whole career development, that's going to help you get more money. So when you're applying to future labs, future experiences, how you talk about it is so important to get that next level of funding. So the National Science Foundation, so several of the programs that you're part of are funded through that, or the NIH is another one. I'm going to tell a little story about a student that we had here at UAB who got to work with Dr. Francis Collins. Hopefully Michelle remembers that student. And I remember talking to him when he was a freshman coming in, and he, first generation, had no real idea of the path, but he got involved with the undergraduate research ambassadors, and he just started talking to people and contacting people and making connections. So he would talk to me, then he would go talk to Dr. Cook, and before you know it, he was talking to someone who knew Dr. Collins. And then before we knew it, he was talking to Dr. Collins. If you watch many interviews about COVID, about the NIH, there's two people you see a lot with, Dr. Fauci and Dr. Collins. And so this student, was able to parlay his undergraduate research experience, his summer research experiences, into a full position working with Dr. Collins. And now he's gone on to medical school. So again, talking to the people at your institutions that are in the same position that I am. And while you're here, I'm happy to talk with you here. Even in October, if you have my email, feel free to shoot me an email. I will still be a resource for you, right? You've all found these RUs. Again, maybe you want to do a second one. You can, if you didn't do a National Science Foundation one, you could do one next summer. If you're still young in your career, because they have a great site that you can go and look at all the different opportunities there. Real quick, sorry, I wanted to really emphasize also professional society. So whatever your major is, I guarantee you there's a society connected to it, right? There's some kind of organization that wants future people to be in their organization. And guess who that is? That's you. They want you to be a paid, card-carrying member of that society. And one way they do that is they give undergraduates money. Okay, so this is an example of the developmental biology development program. Okay, and I'm going to go over a few more of those. But again, I can't emphasize enough, every single discipline has a society like that. Look into it. Some journals, we talked about publications, but some journals also do sponsor, have some grant opportunities. And of course, the international opportunities, we've gone over that. And if you're here at UAB, or hopefully at your home institution, maybe there are programs like this, where we have like an undergraduate matching travel grant program, where we will help you go to another place, such as Germany, and present your research. Again, that opportunity, and I'm sure Kenneth and Carrie will talk a little bit about this, how instrumental that was for them for their next steps, and how we paid for that as an institution, and then they got more money based off of that. They got a great trip out of there. They also went to Australia with that same research. And so we have a lot of programs here at UAB. And so again, just want to emphasize that if you're a UAB student, but I'm hoping that whatever your home institution is, there's assistance there. But again, feel free to contact me anytime here in the near future, and I'm happy to help you. All right, so I'm going to take that one down. I'm going to put up the other one. Let me just make sure there are no questions in Dr. Cook has put up some very good things here. Excellent. About honor societies, and absolutely, that's one of the things I am about to talk about. So let me open up my second one here and share that. All right, stop this one, and then we're going to share the new one. There we go. And feel free to drop questions in the chat. I'll try to check that periodically here. And Dr. Cook can also keep an eye on those. So feel free to look at both of those. All right. So here's a little bit more information. And we've already gone over this. I don't need to go over that. I had Dr. Cook go first because she has such great information and it's more exciting than me. But anyway, these are the other things we're going to go over here real quick. These other types of funding. And, again, all these things connect to each other. I just want you to think about, the Mandalorian and how Grogu connected everything together. He's kind of like the connective tissue of that program, right? He brings us all together with his love of chicken nuggets, right? All right. But here's one of the societies I want to talk about specifically, Sigma Chi, the Scientific Research Honor Society. So I think all of you, the majority of you are in a science research opportunity this summer. I know there's a few humanities, and as a humanities person, I feel for, we're going to talk a little bit about that later, but this is a great program. They have lots of money that they want to give to people. So you can see listed here the GIAR program, okay, grants and aid of research programs, okay, and these are grants. You see the amount. They're not a ton of money, but I'll tell you, it can help a lot. That can get you into a lab. If you bring that money with you, even as an undergrad, PIs are going to pay attention to that, right? So definitely, if you haven't heard of this, the society, check it out. It's a good one to look into. They have money. They have presentation opportunities. A lot of them are virtual now, but I think they will be moving more into the in-person approach here soon, as everyone is doing that. Next one I really want to talk about, this is a great developmental opportunity. And so I'm in the Office of Service Learning and Undergraduate Research, okay, but they definitely cross over. And I talked about Kenneth Davis and Carrie Tang. I want to talk about Carrie Tang in relation to the CGIU, the Clinton Global Initiative University. Now, you may say there's some bias here with Clinton being involved. He's stepping out of it, okay, I will say that. He does come for the photo ops, but it's not necessarily political, okay? But they're going to ask you as a student, and you can get funding through this process, is to create what's called a commitment to action. And they have these 5 focus areas: education, the environment, and climate change. Holy cow, it was 117 degrees in Canada today. Poverty alleviation, peace and human rights, and public health. All right. And you create your own, this is so amazing, idea. You come up with an idea that could be funded to help alleviate one of these areas, right? Or to address one of these concerns. And so, for example, they also, as part of this past year, because they couldn't do the same things that they had done before, they came up with the COVID-19 Student Action Fund. And Carrie Tang applied to that and got into it. We had 2 students who got money that they used to help some really cool programs. So for example, Carrie came up with this wellness app for mental health for students having issues as we all have had during COVID, an app that could help address that issue. And another student, Riley Fleming, came up with an idea to help create flyers and information pieces for people experiencing homelessness who don't have access to technology. And so coming up with ways to market them. So she worked with some local nonprofits to come up with that. So, but in both cases, they had to do research as part of this process. Okay. So they connected the research that they were doing to a real, real issue that we're having in the world, and they got funding for it. And guess what? That funding then can lead to other things. And I can tell you, like, for example, Riley Fleming then used that and she presented at Posters on the Hill, which is the Kerr Council of Undergraduate Research, probably one of the most prestigious places you can present your research because it's directly to people in the Senate and Congress. So really cool thing. So CGIU, you can look at it. They also have this cool social innovation challenge. They're coming up with lots of great ways to give you money to develop a cool idea that you have. All right. And again, you work with your home institution, or you can work in, there's lots of great ways to do it, but CGIU is a really cool program. Another thing I want to talk about is the VISTA program. And last week you heard from Nilu Varghese, who works in our office as a VISTA. And she has used her time after graduation, a gap year, to develop additional skills, additional opportunities, working with PIs, working with people in our office to help build possibilities for students and for faculty here at UAB. But we have over 45 VISTAs that we place out of our office, and a lot of them do research. Let me give you a cool example. We have a student here who is helping develop what's called a pre-law camp. And as part of that, she's doing research on the use of bad boy or negative terminology in court cases. And she's working with a faculty member here, and that's part of her year of experience here. She's developing this research, and I'll tell you what, that's going to get her into law school. Okay, so that's an example again of using a gap year experience. And I am seeing, and I think Dr. Cook would back this up too, more and more students are electing to have these type of opportunities, and COVID has pushed it even further along that way, right? Like the NSF has developed a post-bac research opportunity as well. So anyway, the VISTA, it's a year, you get paid to do it. It's not a lot of money, but you get the opportunity to be placed maybe in our office. I'll even do some recruitment. We have 5 people directly in our office. We have students that we've had from all over the United States who've used that year to develop a research project or something of that matter. And it's really helped push them in a professional way to their next goals. So I just want to say that's another way to, and we had some of them start as seniors as undergrads. All right. So, and they're all amazing individuals. All right, there's Dodd. Dr. Cook has already talked a lot about that, but again, I mentioned it earlier that I went over to Germany with several students, and I'll tell you what, that Dodd, just going over there to present it in Germany helped those students become a lot more interested in doing research in Germany. Germany, as I said, has a ton of money to help with research. They are very open to an exchange of ideas. They love and fully embrace this concept that I also embrace, that diversity helps with research, right? So you bring in over some American minds, you mix them with some other minds from all over the world, and you come up with really cool ideas, right? So that's really the idea behind Dodd, and that's why they're really enthusiastic about bringing people over. So again, the experiences that you're having now, they build on to get these other experiences. All right. Oop, that's an old slide that I don't want on there. But anyway, that's the last thing that I'm going to talk about here real quick. Let me check the chat here to make sure this is the way. Yes. Excellent. All right. So awesome. And again, if you forgot to put your name on the chat, go ahead and do that. If for some reason you didn't do that, we want to make sure that your programmer knows that you were here. But Dr. Cook is still here. I am here. We are here to take any questions you may have about funding and finding money to help pay for your education or any kind of opportunities. Any questions out there? Again, you can drop them into the chat if you have any questions. I'm just seeing if there were any that I might have missed. All right. One new message here. Sometimes I like to pause just in case. Nope, that's someone just putting in their email. All right. Dr. Cook, do you have anything else you'd want to add here since you stuck around, and I appreciate it?
No, just to underscore and co-sign everything you said. Looking for money in places you don't think to look for money, like honor societies within your discipline and pre-professional organizations within your discipline. There are so many little things that can then turn into bigger things.
Yeah, you never know. That student I was talking about earlier that went to work with Dr. Collins, he was part of the Vietnamese student group, and I think they had some funding. I mean, it's just amazing how there's money out there, but sometimes you got to be creative and you got to think about these groups that you're part of and just investigate and talk to people, network. So you're here today, you're listening to us talk. Again, yes, both Dr. Cook and I, you can email us if you have any questions. You don't have to be a UAB student. However, if you are a UAB student and you don't contact us, we'll be mad. No, but you should definitely keep us on your radar. We are here to help you, but we're here for all of you. As I said, we consider you all Blazers since you're here this summer. All right. Just trying to see if I miss any questions. All right, well, I know we're like the Wednesday before the 4th of July and you all are at the halfway point. You're probably getting the point where you need a break. So I understand if you don't have any questions, but I want to thank Dr. Cook one more time and say thank you so much for presenting on those great things. And I'm hoping that all of you look into some of those opportunities because they are fantastic. But without further ado, then I'll just wish everyone a happy and safe 4th of July weekend.
Thank you.